Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on Thursday, the 18th of September, 2025, which makes this the news and events of September 17th, day 1302 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5 from Kyiv, coming to you from this major European capital currently under siege. And I see that the peeps are coming in. How's everybody doing tonight? Derek Sands is here, Chef Deb, Nicola Jones, Raven, Nightshade, Debbie. Everybody's here. Hey, Avi. Avi, I really enjoyed that video you sent earlier. Avi sent me a video. Hey, Mike Kelly. Hey, Debbie. Avi sent me a video earlier of these guys. They're not Ukrainian. They're from Colombia, if I'm not mistaken. And they get on, I don't know, Omegle or Twitch or some other platform, right, where you can talk to people around the world. And they got a soldier from the Russian army on there. And so they're a band. They say, can we play you a song? And they broke into a traditional Ukrainian melody. And the guy did not enjoy that at all. And I cannot tell you the joy that it gave me to see his discomfort, Avi. Really, really enjoyed that. Hey, Nightshade. Hey, Maria Holm. Hey, Bjorn. Sweden's in the house. You saw that one, Seawolf? It's a good one, isn't it? Hey, Carlos. How you doing? Hey, Pugga Mahone. Hey, Ted Greenow. Richard Prexis. DJ, how you doing, pal? Hey, Van the man. How you living, brother? Hey, Pingu. Hey, Super User. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey, Scully. Hey, Mad Mike. The gang is all here. That is for sure. I like it. Let me take a look here. Who is tonight? It's okay. Last Monday was Christian. Last night was Derek Sands. Tonight is Paul Love. I didn't see Paul come in. Is he here? Everybody thank Paul, who's the sponsor of tonight's live. Really appreciate it, Paul. Rowboat, Alice. Alice, I appreciate your comments on the Patreon stuff. I really do. Hey, G2. There's Paul Love. We were just saying thank you for sponsoring tonight's live. Thanks, Paul. Hey, Scott. Georgina Wordsworth is in Sherwood Forest. Hey, June. Hey, Feisty. Hey, Jean. Hey, Calf Brown. Liam Shields, how you doing? Oh, that reminds me. My ex-wife was a Shields. Right, that was her maiden name was Shields. And today is her birthday. Now, I don't think my ex-wife tunes into this program. I don't think. But if she did, I would wish her a happy birthday. That's for sure. Hey, Darlene. Hey, Designology. Hey, Kylie Ann. How's everybody doing tonight? Somebody said to me recently, it feels like, hey, Birdie, she was... No, that was no relation. I assure you, Nightshade. No relation. Man, women are mean. Hey, Arn. If I showed you my wedding pictures, my ex-wife looked gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous on the day of our wedding. I was dating a woman a couple years ago, and she says to me, I don't understand what motivates you. It's certainly not looks. I've seen pictures of your ex-wife. And I'm like, are you kidding me? What did you just say to me? Hey, Dave. Is there an early harvest going on somewhere? Yeah, I wish you could enjoy it with me too, motherfucker. Hey, Akron. Yeah, no, women are terrible to each other, aren't they? They really are. Oh, God. Anyway, what do we got? I can say with complete confidence today that Ukraine is winning. Period. Full stop. And I have the receipts right here. Hey, hobo. Gas shortage, water shortages, manpower shortages. The list goes on. These people, do you remember? Hey, bro dog, do you remember what the Russian propaganda was like 2 years ago? Russia, greatest country on earth, never been defeated, never will be defeated. No one can stop great Russia. Now you can't get gasoline in a place cosplaying as a country that's nothing but a gas station with nukes. A gas station with nukes, cosplaying as a country, only they don't have any gasoline. In Nizhny Novgorod, right next to Moscow, lines for gas are kilometer long. In the Far East, people are waiting all day to fill their tanks with gas, and there is no gas. There's no 92 octane anywhere in the country. That's a real problem for people. Diesel is more readily available, but it's skyrocketed. The price is through the roof. If this were America, where people are paying $4, people are paying in rubles, the equivalent of about $4 a gallon for diesel across Russia. In the United States, based on purchasing power parity, because the average Russian makes 1/10 what the average American makes a year, an American would be paying $14.50 a gallon for diesel. That's how things are going for greatest country on earth, ruled by a bunch of sycophantic genocidal lunatics who have stolen everything for themselves. I'll tell you something. Now this is totally crazy and no one should listen to this. But it's my considered opinion that Vladimir Putin has been out of the picture for a long time now. We have been dealing with nothing but body doubles, actors, and some cabal behind the scenes is ripping off every penny they can from the Russian Federation before they run away forever. And they don't care what kind of devastation they're going to leave in their wake because they're going to be living it up on the French Riviera. That's what they think anyway. Honest to God, designology. A fish finger sandwich. I'm a big fan of fish fingers and custard myself. Now, what's going on? It's funny, right? The Japanese identified 3 body doubles, Raven. You're right. Japanese facial and voice recognition specialists identified at least 3 body doubles. Now, I was having lunch recently, and one of the people at the luncheon was a member of the GUR, the main intelligence directorate of Ukraine. I should say she was retired from there. She's not active duty right now. She's only doing military training for active duty troops. And she has a security firm of her own now. She does private security. According to her, the GUR is aware of at least 7 doubles. 7 doubles. Now, if you take Putin out of the equation and you say, well, wait a minute, if there's a cabal of people that are just propping up these dummies as the figurehead, while they pilfer every dime from the treasury that they can in order to make their own escape in luxury, suddenly all the behavior of Russia seems reasonable, right? It makes sense. Now, as far as their terror campaign against the Ukrainians, that is a failure. I just saw there's a new report out, and I'll try to, I won't be able to do it tomorrow, maybe for Friday. I can try to get some details for you. But one of the things that struck me in the most recent survey of Ukrainians from the Kyiv School of Sociology, which is the largest polling company or polling organization inside Ukraine, 52% of Ukrainian adults, men and women, 52% said that if the country absolutely needed them, they would serve the country. Everybody keeps talking about the manpower shortage here in Ukraine, but they haven't lowered the draft age, have they? No, they have not. 52% of adults in this country said that if the Russians break through the front lines, they'll join the army. The thing is, the Russians aren't breaking through the front lines. Just the opposite is happening. The Russians have hollowed out the manpower in Crimea, in Kherson, in Zaporizhia, to send it all first to Kursk. That's where all those southern troops first went, was to Kursk. But now they're pulling them out of Kursk and Sumy into Donetsk, specifically, of course, into Pokrovsk. Now, this is according to a report from the British MOD, just published today. So in the British MOD update on Ukraine today, they said that major elements of naval infantry have been transferred from the Sumy and Kursk directions into the Dobropila and Pokrovsk sections. The Ukrainian army said today that of the 111,000 troops that Russia moved into the Pokrovsk direction in order to take Pokrovsk, the Ukrainians have eliminated 60,000 of them. Over half. Through a campaign, a months-long campaign of deep strikes against barracks, troop transport, convoys, staging grounds, and training centers. The last 2 months have seen one strike after another in the rear in Donetsk to the tune of 60,000 Russians lost. No wonder they need the reinforcements from Kursk and Sumy. No wonder the Sumy lines are collapsing if they're pulling all of the reserves out of Sumy. No wonder the amount of controlled territory in Kursk around Tetkino has tripled in the last 30 days if they're pulling everybody out of Kursk to send them to Donetsk, where they face a drone wall and an oncoming Ukrainian force that is slicing and dicing the Russians all to the northeast of Pokrovsk. Slicing and dicing. Zapad exercises in Belarus wrapped up today. And Putin actually, or one of his doubles, likely one of his doubles, went to Belarus for the closing ceremonies of the Zapad military exercises. Now, it is important to note that the Zapad military exercises simulate a Russian and Belarusian response to a NATO invasion of Belarus. They were used as the cover for the 2022 invasion, the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And those exercises wrapped up today with U.S. military observers there shaking the hands of war criminals and murderers Unbelievable. Absolutely obscene to me. Hey, Disco Sounds. Curiously absent from the proceedings was Gerasimov. General Valery Gerasimov was nowhere to be seen in any of these exercises. Curious. We do not know why. I want to highlight for everybody that today is September 17th. Or rather it was. For me, it's just past midnight, so for me, it's the 18th. But for you, it's probably still the 17th. Inventor, stop. Stop that. Just stop right there. Never in the history of Russian military exercises have U.S. observers been invited in. That is not a thing. Do not pretend as if such a thing. You say weird shit sometimes, Inventor. You really do. But that has to be the weirdest thing you've ever said. Completely divorced from reality of any kind. You gotta be kidding me. These exercises are intended to defeat us on the battlefield. With the U.S. military. With the U.S. military, that's your claim. Well, you know what? You can make it somewhere else. Weird things come out of that guy's mouth. I don't believe it for a second. Anybody else believe that? Jax, right there. They have said that early. This is the first time the USA was invited. Of course it is. What a load of shit from this fucking guy with his weirdo name. Ugh. All right, enough. Enough of that nonsense. I wish I could see his IP address. Anyway, last night's overnight attacks, 172 drones were sent at the territory of Ukraine. 136 of them were taken out. That's about an 80% interception rate. Today is September 17th, 2025. It is the anniversary of the USSR's betrayal of the world and their invasion of Poland in 1939. It is on this day that the Soviet Union, led by Russia, started World War II. And for all their posturing and bullshit about the Great Patriotic War and how nobody fought in World War II but them, and how they saved the world from the Nazis, with no mention of Lend-Lease, no mention of American and Allied support, no mention of the fact that they started the war when they took half of Poland, which they've never given back, by the way, right? Poland lost all of its eastern half to the Russian horde and has never gotten it back. This is the anniversary of that day. It was 86 years ago today, but we are living through the same thing again. Russia's appetites, its avarice, its unquenchable thirst for power and land is never ending. And we see it happening right now. They also tried to erase Finland. I'm very much of the opinion that St. Petersburg would make a great Finnish city again. I'd like to see St. Petersburg and Karelia reunited with Finland. That's what I'd like to see. So on this day, on this anniversary of the worst conflict that the world has ever lived through, in which more humanity suffered its end in the worst way, let's remember everybody that perished from 1936 to 1945. And let's vow that we will stop Russia today where they are before they can unleash that hell on earth against the rest of us. Enough. I say enough. On that, now again, we're seeing hits against Crimea. The pace seems to be accelerating. Critical infrastructure, railroads, logistic hubs, surveillance, radars, and air defense assets are chief among the targets that Ukrainian precision weapons are striking every day in Crimea, hollowing out the enemy's ability to live on the peninsula. Water shortages and gas shortages are increasingly making life in Crimea untenable for the Russians. Sevastopol gets hit almost every night, pal. Almost every night, something in Sevastopol gets blown up. Now, last night, it was the GLONASS satellite receiver station. So some of us will be familiar with the Russian version of GPS, which is GLONASS. And GLONASS works the same way GPS works. You got your satellites up in space, and the satellites are constantly pinging targets on Earth in order to triangulate your position relative to those targets on Earth. And this is done through a combination of receiver stations that communicate with the satellites and cell towers that communicate with the receiver stations and the clients out in your car, on your phone, right? They hit the receiver station in Crimea. Now look, it's unclear to me what the impact of this will be. Because in the United States, I know that all that would happen is your cell tower would fail over to a different receiver station. That's all that would happen, right? And then you'd get your GPS data from a different endpoint. The loss of a single receiver station will not take out the GPS. However, taking out the cell towers and the receiver station would take out the GPS completely. So it's possible that the next thing that we'll see struck in Crimea are in fact the cell towers. But again, I don't know that for sure. Thank you, Jan. Oh, no, I'm looking for Jan Halverson. Is Jan Halverson here by any chance? Jan Halverson. I will get that Nordic accent down sometime. I really will, one of these days. Okay, no Jan, huh? Satellite warfare is on the way. I don't know. Seawolf used to work for AT&T and Nextel. My Aunt Ellen worked for Bell Labs, and she was one of the women who did the computations that put the first private satellite in orbit around the globe, which is, a point of pride for the family, certainly. Now, it's not Flamingo's Pingu that hit the GLONASS receiver station in Crimea last night, but from the audio on the video, we know that it was a jet-powered drone or a jet-powered drone missile hybrid, right? Like maybe the Banshee, the Polonitsa, or the Peklo. Likely it was one of those three. We don't really know what was used to hit the GLONASS installation last night in Crimea, but it was a jet-powered drone, probably a drone missile hybrid. The damage is extensive, though we do not have an official, just from the video, you can see very clearly that the damage is extensive there. It is likely that that receiver station is offline. Now, again, what the immediate impact is to the Russian army is unclear to me. It seems unlikely that just taking that out is enough to end, is unclear to me. It seems unlikely that just taking that out is enough to end satellite navigation for the army. I doubt that. But it is a critical leg in taking out satellite navigation for the army. You know what? I'm not putting up with you. I have very little patience tonight, guys. I'm sorry. And this is a person who should have been gone long ago. Hey, Hope Pat. Okay, now, I hate to imagine, Monica, what you spent on that gold medal. Because I'm not getting any of that money. Right? Like, that. TikTok keeps 70% of that. Whatever you spent on that medal, I only get 30% of it. I would much rather you joined the Patreon at $5 a month than send me gold medals. Please. Yeah, it's a ripoff. It's a total ripoff for you and for me. You think you're helping? You're not. You're just putting money in TikTok's pocket. Okay. So GLONASS on Crimea hit. We heard about, last night, I think we talked a little bit about the Turks being approached by the Russians to buy back some S-400s. The word around the campfire is that Turkey has already told them no. So that's not going to happen. And that's good news for everybody. We got a good laugh at the expense of the Russians, who are desperately running around trying to buy back the air defense equipment they sold to other countries, and they're still not getting it back, which is great for everybody as far as I'm concerned. I think the Turks should give it to the Ukrainians as a gesture of goodwill, and then let the U.S. put them back in the F-35 program. They got kicked out because they bought those S-400s 5 years ago. Or, no, it's longer than that now, 8 years ago. Yeah. Now, looking at the front line, Kupiansk is under heavy pressure. There's no doubt there. I have a correction from last night's live. Last night I said that the Belarusian troops, the Belarusian division of the International Legion, was fighting in Pokrovsk. That was wrong. The Belarusian International Legion, or the members of the International Legion from Belarus, are fighting against the Russian invaders in the Liman-Pershi area. That's the Kupiansk sector. So I apologize, I misspoke last night. And Kupiansk is under heavy pressure. The Belarusians and elements of the GUR have moved in there and are slicing and dicing the western flank of the Russian advance on Kupiansk. We'll see yet. We have yet to see whether or not the Ukrainians can nip that salient that's reached out to Kupiansk in the bud, the way that they did on the Pokrovsk advance. The Russians are in trouble in Pokrovsk. There's just no two ways about it. This summer saw 210,000 Russian soldiers lost. KIA, WIA, POW, or MIA. 210,000 in the summer offensive. 60,000 of them in Pokrovsk alone. It's insanity. They cannot keep it up. And now, to backfill reserves in Pokrovsk, they are pulling men from the defense of Kursk, Russian territory, and the Sumy advance. The Sumy advance was supposed to be a distraction to pull Ukrainian troops away from the front line, in the Donbass particularly, so that the Russians could make a breakthrough. Instead, the exact opposite has happened. The Sumy advance has become a death trap, a kill zone for Russian soldiers, and Ukraine has pushed them back, at least on the western edge, to the Russian border, back into Kursk. Now we're hearing from the British MOD, Ministry of Defense, right, for the Americans here, from the British Ministry of Defense, that the Russians are pulling the reserves out of Sumy and sending them to Pokrovsk, because that's the win that Russia needs. Pokrovsk is the linchpin to the rest of Donetsk, and Russia absolutely believes it needs it. And in pursuit of this single-minded goal, they will pour the lives of an entire generation of Russian men into the meat grinder to accomplish nothing. A year ago, nearly a year ago, I was on this channel saying to people, well, it's not looking good in Pokrovsk. The Russians might have it in a month. Maybe by Christmas, the Russians will have Pokrovsk. That was a year ago. And the Russians are no closer to, the Russians are now farther away. The Ukrainians have erased all of the summertime gains north of Pokrovsk, erased them in the last 3 weeks. And they're only pushing forward harder now. And that's going to continue. In Dnipropetrovsk, we have another one of these salients, right? These infiltration groups. A bunch of guys sneak through the line. A bunch more follow them through. They hide like rats in the cellars of the ruins until they've got 20 or 30 guys and they think they can go out and take on some Ukrainians. This salient into Dnipropetrovsk is narrow, thin, and undermanned. It's also completely pointless. There is nothing in the area for them to take. There are no strategic targets there, and they are flummoxed by a number of lakes and rivers, which they can't get across. So sooner or later, Ukrainian forces will go in, cut the salient off, and clean out the cauldron, just like they're doing in Pokrovsk and Kupiansk right now. It's my opinion that this is the most important story of the day. On the surface of it, it doesn't look like much. 2 frontline positions, one in Zaporizhia, one in Chasiv Yar, were destroyed by AASM hammers, which is a precision-guided munition provided by the French, launched from a Ukrainian MiG-29. These AASM hammers have a range of 70 kilometers, about 43 miles. Can anybody tell me what the range of a Russian Buk M3 is, the absolute workhorse, the most common air defense that you're going to find on the front, the Buk M3? Does anybody know what its range is? Because its range just happens to be 70 kilometers or 43 miles. So this means that if the Ukrainians are going to launch these precision-guided weapons at targets on the front line, they have to get within air defense range of the front line to launch these targets. That's a very dangerous position to be in. And yet they're doing it with impunity all the time these days. Why? because we have seen one book after another destroyed. We've seen one S-400, S-300, what Pantsers, all of them destroyed, one after another after another. This is with intent. What we are witnessing, my friends, is the emergence of a new capability from the Ukrainian armed forces. The Air Force is establishing air superiority over the skies of Ukraine. And you know what? If goddamn NATO would just give them a no-fly zone out west, they'd have it done. They'd have it done already. We saw it first, and I've been talking about this, right? I've been talking about this emergent capability of the Ukrainian Air Force to control the skies because we've been watching it play out in Tetkino and Sumy and Kursk all along the northern front. It appears that the Ukrainians have destroyed so much Russian air defense there that they can now strike the Tetkino incursion with impunity. The same is true down south in Kherson. Now it appears that that control, that critical component, as I understand it, for maneuver warfare, the ability of your Air Force to come in, soften up the front line with heavy bombardment from the skies, so that then your infantry goes in and cleans up and clears the trenches. That's now happening in Ukraine. We are witnessing in real time the emergence of an air superiority capability from the Ukrainians. And that was very much highlighted in the hits on Zaporizhia. A forward command post right on the front line was struck and destroyed, as well as the VDV. The VDV are the paratroopers, the best trained, best equipped soldiers in Russia. The VDV HQ in Chasiv Yar was hit as well. Now, we don't have a damage assessment on personnel in the building at the time, but the very fact that the Ukrainians can fly their jets right up to the front line within striking distance of what should be Russian air defense, unload their payload, and fly away as the payload successfully destroys the target, is the first step toward close air support. Warped Lake. You're right about that. That's the next thing. What air defense doing? What air defense doing? What air defense? What air defense? There's no air defense left. The Turks wouldn't sell it to us. Sweden has announced, so in my opinion, that is the biggest story today. You might easily write it off as just 2 more strikes on the front line successfully by the Ukrainians. But no, the work, the discipline, the time, the energy, the planning, the execution to make those 2 strikes possible. I swear to God, every day I stand like this with my jaw, my mouth agape, in absolute amazement at what the Ukrainians are able to do in the midst of this war. It's astonishing. Okay. Sweden has announced a plan to raise defense spending to 3.5% of GDP. So Sweden is on board with the whole, let's build up all our armed force. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with everybody. Europe wouldn't have to spend 5 defense on military budgets if it just helped Ukraine defeat Russia now. That's the enemy. That's what you're all spending all your money on. Jesus Christ. Take out the Russians and you don't have to spend that money on everything else. The fuck is wrong with you people? Finally, last thing here. Now, dudes, come on. Give me some props here. Because I've been saying this, right? Right. No Russia, no threat. Exactly. Now, I've been saying this. How long can Russia take these hits on its refineries, these reduced refining capacities, without having to slow down production? They're going to have to do it, right? Well, we got word today from Reuters. According to reporting in Reuters, Transneft has warned producers that they may have to cut production because of pipeline disruptions. We knew this was coming, and here it is. 80% of Russian crude oil flows through the Transneft pipelines. Transneft has been making its pipelines available as a secondary storage location if your oil depot happened to have got blown up by the Ukrainians. They can't do that anymore. The pipes are as full as they can be. The only thing left to do is start shutting off wells. They're going to have to start cutting back production. And that's a long-term fix for a short-term problem, not how you want to handle it. Now, in their defense, I will say that Transneft has completely refuted the veracity of this story. Transneft has said that this is fake news of the worst sort, and it hurts Transneft's reputation that Reuters is even publishing this drivel. Ha! I don't think they have a defamation case. I could be wrong, but I don't think they do. Light that match, J-Boy. Light that match. And you're right, Seawolf. You can't just light a switch or flip a switch and turn it off and on. It's not the tap, right? It's an oil well. Hey, Tim Lilly. How's life in... oh, my God. Woodstock, New York. Well, Bethel, really. Blow up the pipelines. I'm with you. Okay. So, guys, that's it for my top line news. We got about 15 minutes for Q&A. Real quick, let me thank the sponsor of tonight's live, who is Paul Love. Thank you, Paul Love. I want to thank Lars, who has the Discord server, Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces, as well as the moderators, best moderator team on the Tickety Talk. Questions, comments, points of observation, or personal need. Shutting down a well will require re-drilling the well at a later date. Very often that is the case. Oil solidifies in the line in cold weather and becomes what's known as a plug. Correct. The Kirsch Bridge is still opened. It's still open. But Gene, it's nothing but a pressure valve. It's an escape hatch for Russians that the Ukrainians are leaving in place so that as many people can get out of Crimea before they go in. How is the Ukrainian soldier that was in the chat a few days ago? Renvox, I'm not sure. Is Tim here by any chance? Is Tim here by any chance? Is that really Joey Contino in my live? Wow. Hey, Joey Contino. How you doing, buddy? You want to come live? You want to say hi to folks? We're just doing Q&A. Thanks, Jax. Send me a request if you want. What's up in Belarus? So, guys, look, the Belarusian question is a complex question. And it is made more difficult by the fact that you have Lukashenko supported by the Russians and his illegitimate government in Belarus. And then you have the Belarusian elected government that's in exile. And you have all the Belarusians who stand against Lukashenko, who have joined the Ukrainian army and make up the Belarusian core of the International Legion. So when it comes to Belarus, pardon me, when it comes to Belarus, we want to be clear. You have the puppet Putin regime in Minsk, and then you have free Belarusians out fighting against the Russian oppressor. Lukashenko is in a tough position. He is absolutely controlled and owned by Putin and Russia as part of what Russia likes to call the Union State, which is really just another name for the old Russian Empire. And then you have all of his domestic problems and the fact that he's now hosting, in contravention to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, he's now hosting Russian nukes on his soil. Add to that the fact that there could be as many as 150,000 Russian soldiers in Belarus who could try to come over the northern border and take Kyiv again, though I think that's unlikely. It's important to remember that at the initial full-scale invasion, he did permit the Russians to use Belarusian soil to attack Ukraine. So while he's managed to stay out of the fighting directly, everything he has done has been a gift to Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin. Ukraine captured a Kenyan soldier who claimed he went to Russia as a tourist. And maybe he did, it's hard to say. Russia's restricting road fuel to Belarus. Well, I don't know about that, Seawolf. I do know that Russia is demanding that all of the refined oil products that Minsk refines out of Russian oil get sent back to Russia. They're insisting, we give you oil, you give us gasoline. Yes, this is the way. The problem is the Belarusians need that gasoline for themselves. Now, guys, we got to be very careful here, because some asshole out there is making videos claiming that there's a gas crisis in Belarus, and they're showing pictures of protests from 2020. To the best of my knowledge, none of that is happening right now. What the purpose of this disinformation is, I can't even guess. I just don't know. What is your best guess as to the destruction of Russia? Yes, Russia is destroying itself. It will not survive this war with Ukraine. Well, 36 months. I give it 36 months after the shooting stops. What we know is Russia will no longer exist. And how that shakes out is anybody's guess. I don't know. Sorry, buddy, just wanted to know about Dnipropetrovsk. It's just family ties in district. So Designology, as I understand the push into Dnipropetrovsk, to date, it has had limited effectiveness. They've been pushed out twice. They've made incursions 3 times now. We're on our 3rd incursion. The territory where they are, where they can get to for these advances, there are no cities. There are no industries. It's farmland, swamp, and lake country. There ain't nothing there. It's not strategic. It's not even tactical. Russia just wants a toehold in Dnipropetrovsk because it thinks the desperate Ukrainians that it's beating so hard will give up that tiny little piece of Dnipropetrovsk for the 26,000 square kilometers in Donetsk that no Russian soldier has yet put a foot on. It's wish thinking. It's the wish thinking of a meth head. They're just going to give it all. They'll give it all. No, trust me, trust me on this. If we just take that, then they'll give us all that. If we just, trust me. If we have that, they'll give us all that. That's what they want. That's what they'll give us. That's what it's like trying to figure out what the Kremlin is thinking these days. You and me both, Dawn Patrols. Can't come soon enough. If Putin dies, it's Russia's battle royale. What if Lukashenko dies? That's a great question. Russia doesn't have the manpower to go in and support Belarus anymore. I mean, 5 years ago would have been a very different story. But now I think the most likely scenario, if Lukashenko were to check out, would be for the government in exile to come in and establish democracy. They have the support of the people. Altered Carbon says Trump eased sanctions on Belarus Airlines in exchange for releasing journalists. And Altered Carbon, Lukashenko played him just like Putin does. Everybody that he released was down to weeks or months on their sentences. Weeks or months. They'd be out by Christmas, every single one of them. So it was no big deal what he did. On top of that, the sanctions against the airlines, or the easing of those sanctions, was so that Lukashenko could put all those dissidents on planes and exile them from the country, their family, their friends, their homes. So none of it was any kind of a friend to democracy or a gesture of goodwill in any way. It was all a load of shit to make Trump feel good, make Trump feel like he got something, when in fact he got nothing. Did you see the video of the woman in Donetsk blasting Ukrainian music out of her car? I did not see, Wolf. I don't know what that's about. Oh, Paul, don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that the Russians don't want Dnipropetrovsk. Of course they do. They want all of Ukraine. But in the meantime, they can't even take Kupiansk and Pokrovsk in 26 months. 26 months. Come on, give me a break. They're not going anywhere. In fact, they're losing territory now. They lost 40 square kilometers yesterday. That's like as much as they took in 4 weeks in June. That's as much as they took. If I'm not mistaken, 3 or 4 weeks in June. 40 square kilometers. They lost it all yesterday. We're seeing all of the gains of the last summer offensive erased in days. Oh, you're an optimist, Anthony. I don't believe that for a second. All right, real quick, before we run out of time, we got 4 minutes left. Final questions, chat them in. Big thanks to Paul Love. Everybody thank Paul. He's here tonight for sponsoring tonight's live. I really appreciate it, Paul. The Sofia trip is coming up. I leave on Sunday, and I am a little nervous. So if anybody can help out with sponsorships during next week's trip to Sofia, I would certainly appreciate it. Thank you. Big thanks to Paul Love, who is our sponsor tonight. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces, and of course to the best moderator team on the Tickety Talk. No Jan Halverson tonight, huh? The Flamingo has had 2 successful combat missions. One, it took out a drone shipment in the Caspian Sea that was headed from Iran to Russia, to Port Olia. And then the other thing was, oh gosh, I forget if they were air defense systems or radars. It was in Crimea. 3 missiles came in and destroyed some targets in Crimea. And I apologize, I just forget what those targets were. Was it an S-400? Bonap Gourmet. Ooh. It could have been an S-400. Not the whole... Oh, that's what it was. You're right. It was a podlet radar and the S-400, what they call the cheese board radar. It was 2 very expensive radar systems. Thanks, Marius. Have a good night. Hey, Daryl Roberts. Hey, Chris in Connecticut. Our sponsor tomorrow night is from Connecticut. Nutmegger will be our sponsor tomorrow night. Nutmegger from the Nutmeg State. Night, Colin. Thanks, Bon App Gourmet. Thanks, June. Thanks, Scully. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Liam. Thanks, Akron. Night, Designology. Night, Nicola. Night, Little Red. Night, Carol. Are we just down to good nights? All right, we're down to good nights. So, ladies and gentlemen, friends, Romans, countrymen, thanks for lending me your ear. I really appreciate it. I got a real long day ahead of me tomorrow. Watch for sporadic lives during the day, European time. And hopefully I'll see you all tomorrow night. Thanks, everybody. Take care.